There is more to the state of Nevada than Las Vegas. And this week on the podcast, we have got Becky Dwire with the Nevada Sporting Dog Alliance. And folks, I'm going to tell you that Nevada needs our help as houndsmen right now. Some groups have filed a petition there to end the use of hounds for bear hunting in the state of Nevada. It seems to be a fight that goes on every year somewhere. And I just want to encourage you that we can make a difference. We can win these battles. We just had a major victory as a hunting community in the state of California. And the reason that happened is because hunters came together from all over and voiced their concerns and objections to ending a bear hunt in California. And if we can win in California, we can win anywhere. So we are on a roll, and we are rolling this one out for you so that you understand what's going on in the state of Nevada with hound hunting for bears out there. You need to pay attention, and if you can get involved and support Nevada, man, I am encouraging you to do just that. There is no time like the present. We can't afford to lose any more ground. These groups that are filing these petitions are well-funded, pretty well organized, but they are well-backed. So we can win this thing if we get on board and work with the Nevada Sporting Dog Alliance, and you're going to hear about how you can get involved in this podcast. Thank you for spending your time with Houndsman XP, and it's time to dump the box. So do you guys haul mules in the backs of trucks, or are you pulling trailers?
It depends on how many we're pulling, but we do quite a bit of both. We've got a aluminum chassis mount horse box that'll hold a couple of big horses and a mule or some more medium-sized mules. And then you can put about 15 dogs in there with it. So we've got 2 of those, another one waiting to be mounted, and then several stock trailers as well. So it kind of just depends on the numbers and where we're going. The chassis mounts are really convenient, except for when they're not. Like if you want to go at a decent rate down the highway, they're not exactly the most aerodynamic vehicles ever made, but they're nice for getting in canyons that are tight or rocky where you can't really turn a trailer around.
Yeah. We used to run, it's amazing. You can get away from a lot of four-wheel drive vehicles back here when you've got 2 mules loaded in the back of a 3/4 ton truck with a chassis mount. And then the dog box was up front, but we used to drive that and just load our mules right in the back of the truck. It was so handy.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, there's times where it's 2:00 in the morning and your mule that's loaded 800 times into it decides all of a sudden, I just kind of rather not. And then there's times you're cussing
Doesn't
them,
that just...
but for the most part, they're pretty good.
So I had a horse one time. She was a super, she was as close to riding a good mule as anything I'd ever ridden. I could take her anywhere. She could do anything. I could work cows on her. I could hunt off of her. And she was just a nice size horse. She was about 14 hands, 14.2, somewhere around in there. So she was good size. She was built for, she could handle a good load. So she was real athletic. But exactly what you said. All of a sudden, I get her to a trailer. I never had problems loading that horse ever. And you get her to the trailer, and all of a sudden, that's the time she decides she's not going to cooperate.
Well, and it seems like the funny thing is when they do that, it's when you're coming back from hunting, so you're not home, and you're like,
yeah.
Well, all right.
Exactly. That's where I was at. Yeah. Yeah, you're not getting this whole thing here because we're going home to where I'm going to feed you when we get there.
Exactly. You can go back to hanging out and go have a good roll and not be working your butt off for a little bit, and that seems to be when they have the hang up.
I had a white mule one time. She was a super nice mule. She was about the only thing I had on the place at the time that I could trust to put my 100%, no fears of putting my daughter on there and riding double or letting her ride her.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hauling her, pulling her up to another place, and I look in the rearview mirror, and I had a 2-horse trailer and had the windows in the front, and I felt something lunging back there, and I look in the rearview mirror, and all I can see is a white face plastered up against one of those windows. That mule had climbed up in, it had tack storage in the front underneath the hay rail up in the front. And she had gotten her front feet up in there, and she was trying to get out through that window. It was the craziest thing I'd ever seen.
That'll make
and I'm
you
like,
put
what
the
is
brakes
she
on.
doing? Oh, yeah. And so I do. I pull over and reach in there, and I ended up having to tie her short so she couldn't get her front feet up there. But I'd hauled that mule miles and miles and miles, and I'm right in downtown Brookville, hauling through town, and she's trying to climb up in the hay rack up in front.
Oh, well, you never have stuff that makes you look silly happen when no one's around to see absolutely everything. You never get bucked off when you're by yourself.
Exactly.
It's
no doubt. There's always, and now with phones, we make sure that we get it recorded so that we can remind people on social media that they got bucked off.
Oh, there is no forgetting, but it's kind of funny you say that about your white mule, because I would about trade you our white mule. Well, Cleave's white mule. She's about the opposite of everything you listed good about your white mule, except for the fact that she is just double tough. That's about the only good quality she has. And I don't think you could starve her to death in a concrete pen. I mean, she just looks at air and she gets fat, so I guess that's a good quality too. I don't know if it makes up for the rest of them, but we still got her.
That's a beautiful thing about mules is they can live on what a horse will drop out of its mouth most of the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they are tough and easy to maintain.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I mean, she's the type that I do a lot of body work on horses, whether they're rodeo horses. That's pretty big by us, barrel horses and roping and all that. And she's the type I'll go and give her a nice full body massage and red light, the whole 9 yards after she's been worked hard, and she'll stand there and enjoy the whole thing, and I'll walk by her and she'll reach out and try and grab me or kick me, or not hard, just enough to say I could. And it's like, oh, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. The only horse I've ever had that was close to being as tough as a mule, and this horse probably was as tough as a mule. It was a little Mustang Arabian Cross, and wasn't a big horse, but he was tough. Good feet. I mean, that horse had the best, toughest feet of anything. We rode him barefoot a lot. We couldn't do it out in your country, but in our country we could ride him barefoot. But you could walk him across, gravel or riprap or whatever in some of the farm lanes and stuff, and horses with shoes on them would kind of jump, or they'd get a stone up in on their frog or something, and they'd wince. You know how they do. That horse would just walk right across it barefoot. He didn't care.
Exactly, and it's funny. That's exactly what this mule is an Arab. And her mom was the same exact way, same temperament, same personality. We didn't have her. I just ended up finding the guy who had the jack she was bred to. He's kind of an acquaintance of ours, another houndsman. And you're exactly right. They say with the Mustangs, if you find a good one, they are as close to a mule as you can get in horse form, and just tough-footed. And that's the thing about hunting with mules, like Cleave says. He says, hard day lion hunting, I feel bad for a horse. I never feel bad for a mule. They're just double tough.
Yeah. No doubt. Well, the familiar voice you're hearing on this podcast is that of Becky Dwire. Becky, welcome back to the podcast. You realize your episode that you and Cleave recorded with us is still in our top 10?
I shoot for
episodes.
Excellence. What can I say? So I appreciate it. We had a lot of fun, and we were saying, man, we'd really like to do another one, and I'm glad I'm getting the chance to do it.
Yeah. Well, I'm super happy to have you on here and have you back on. So we've been talking about mules and horses and the frustrations of owning stock, and that's probably why I don't own any right now with traveling and being on the road and stuff like I am. Then My wife has been into horses her whole life and stuff, and she wouldn't mind having them, but just being able to have them, keep them in shape and work them. You know, I'm not much on pasture ornaments, and back east here, a lot of people have horses and things like that, but 99% of them are just pasture ornaments standing out there and don't get ridden like they should. So that's why I haven't got any right now.
Yeah, it's tough to justify, especially with the drought that a lot of the hay raising states are having. You know, feed prices are going up, fuel prices are going to be going up, and it's hard to justify having them if you're not using them enough to offset that.
Well, that might be the answer to the fuel prices.
It could be.
Yeah.
Everybody, instead of a drive track, they could just take their Garmin and bungee cord it to their mule's ears, and we'd all be good to go.
That's right. You got it. So, hey, tell us how the hunting season's been going for you out in Nevada.
Oh, it's been going good. You know, we've been catching a few here and there, and doing pretty well. We've been finding some really good toms, and the conditions have been not the best, but definitely able to get stuff done. I'm really hoping we get a lot of snow. Cleave and I were joking around the other day. You know, the whole West collectively is extremely dry this year, and it seems like the last 2 years, really. You know, and I was joking with Cleave, saying I'd rather get a whole bunch of snow come March and April than right now, just strictly for our snowpack in our water reserves. And I got to thinking about it, and I said, gosh, you know what's probably going to happen? We're going to be done with hunters with not a whole lot of snow, and we're going to go to start building fence. We're going to get 4 feet of snow, and that's going to set us back on that too.
You know, I don't know about you, but it seems like watching the weather patterns for the last, I don't know when I kind of started noticing this, but it seems like something in our solar system, I don't know, I'm not a scientist, just trying to figure this out, but it seems like our winters are getting later into the year. Our summers run longer into the fall, our falls run longer into winter, and our winters run longer into spring, and then our spring runs later into summer. We've been noticing that here a lot, and it seems like that's been going on for about the last 10 years, but
yeah.
Just an off-the-wall observation I've made, and it may not even be, I don't know, it may be off the wall.
I think you're right, honestly. You know, it kind of seems like everything nowadays is shaking up, and it, you know, we can't, like if I go to plant a garden, and then this is average for us, I can't plant until after June 15th unless I have a greenhouse set up, because it's inevitable the first week of June, first week, 10 days of June, we're going to get a pretty good snowstorm. It doesn't last long. You know, it's gone in 2 or 3 days, but it's going to get hit hard enough that it's going to do some damage to sensitive young plants. You know, seems like we our max is going about 90 days without some form of snowfall. Now, whether that's an inch or 18 inches, or, you know, it just depends on the year.
Well, tell our listeners that may not have caught your first episode that you were on with us, and I can't remember the number. It was last year. But tell our listeners where you're from, Becky, and your elevation, where you guys are hunting, and just describe the country that you guys are hunting in, you and Cleave.
So we live in northeastern Nevada, about 50 miles south of the Idaho border and about 50 miles west of the Utah border. And we hunt the whole eastern side of the state and into the central part of the state. We're along the same plains as like Evanston, Wyoming, say, as far as where we live. But like I said, we hunt pretty much clear down to just north of Vegas. And our terrain really ranges from like a high country like you'd see in northwest Colorado to down to the Mojave Desert type stuff. I mean, I can be hunting in 4 feet of snow on an average winter, or I can be hunting in a T-shirt watching little blue-belly lizards scramble around rocks, trying to get away from puppies that aren't paying attention. So it's everything from, you know, rolling Utah junipers and pinyon trees to quaking aspens and firs and water crossings stirrup deep on my mule. You know, we really kind of run an interesting gamut of conditions. A lot of limestone, a lot of shale.
And you and Cleave, your husband Cleave, who is not with us, and this is kind of a special treat for me, because we're in the same time zone right now because you came back east, but so I don't have to be up later, and you don't have to be up early to record a podcast with us.
It is true. It is kind of a treat. Yeah, he got clients in right now that he's hunting for, and I came back to visit my folks and some family for a little bit. So I'm missing the dogs for sure and everything, but I will say it's kind of nice having a break from picking up dog turds and feeding and breaking ice in water buckets.
Yeah, and tending to stock and stuff.
There is that. So for sure. And I'm going to have to probably throw in that I miss Cleave a little bit too. Now that I said I miss the dogs and all that, but.
Oh, yeah. Cleave gets I don't know. I think sometimes I feel for Cleave.
Oh, I feel for Cleave all the time. There's no punches pulled there.
The videos when he's walking around the front of the truck and you start blowing the horn and you're sitting in the truck laughing at him. I mean, he could be looking for a line track. He could be opening a gate. How many times have you done that, Tim? Every time?
Oh, well, I can't do it every time because then he starts to expect it. So I've got to break it up. I did it like every time for a long time, but now I've kind of break it up to where I lull him into like this false sense of security, and I wait till, I mean, he's always in a good mood. The man is never mad. But I wait till he's like really just happy-go-lucky, you know, bluebirds are singing, the sun is shining, not paying attention, and then I sneak in and get in there and get him. And I think that video, I know the video you're referencing, and I looked at it, and I think that video is approaching 3,000 views. We've got friends and my sister-in-law, and she's like, literally, if I am having a bad day, the first thing I do is go to your Facebook and find that video. She goes, I have to have watched it probably 70 times the first time you posted it, and every other time you post it, it's just on repeat.
Oh man, it's funny, and it's one of those deals where it's like that's exactly the kind of stuff that my wife would do to me. There is no doubt about it. She'd get me every time.
Sounds like me and your wife would get along.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. But to give our audience an idea, go back to episode 16. The podcast title was Marriage, Mules, and Mountain Lions. Cleave and Becky Dwire of Bull Creek Outfitters, and I don't mind pumping Bull Creek Outfitters for you guys, Becky. You guys are, and that's actually not the real name. What's the actual name of your outfit?
It actually is Bull Creek Outfitters, but we have it on Facebook as Bull Creek Lion Hunts because there are a couple other Bull Creeks in other states. So we kind of tried, and since we basically just do lion hunts, we tried to kind of offset to where people wouldn't get confused going between pages. But it is actually Bull Creek Outfitters.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, we got that right then.
You did. You're on a roll this morning.
Yeah.
It's got to be the same time
it's
zone.
Unusual. That's what it is. It's because we're on the same time zone. But Becky, I really want to talk to you about. We've shifted a little bit in what we're trying to do with the Houndsman XP podcast. Yeah, I feel like we are in a time in our lives where we've got to unite houndsmen and houndsmen need a voice out there that is a credible voice, it's an effective voice, and one that can light the path forward if we're going to retain our freedoms to hunt with hounds. And there isn't any other form of hunting that is more vulnerable to the anti-hunting crowd, but also the threat of being eliminated than hunting with hounds. And the reason I wanted to have you on here is because of your work and experience with the Nevada Sporting Dog Alliance. And I wanted to talk to you today about some of the things that are going out there in Nevada, what you guys are facing right now, and briefly talk on a few issues that are current that need some attention from not only Nevada houndsmen, but houndsmen across the United States. So just give us a lowdown on the Nevada Sporting Dog Alliance. How did you guys form, and what's the status of the organization?
So we got our 501c3, so our nonprofit organization title in 2017, and we are a very small group in comparison to, say, like, the Sportsman's Alliance or anything like that. It's me and 3 other guys who pretty much take care of the administrative stuff, the social media stuff, the website stuff, pretty much everything. We're all local here to Nevada. We're kind of spread out across the state. And that's something that is not unique to Nevada per se, but maybe a little more magnified in Nevada because it is such a large state. I was trying to give some perspective to my sister who hasn't been out there yet. I grew up in the state of Connecticut, and the county that I live in is, I believe, 4 times larger. Just the county alone is 4 times larger than the entire state of Connecticut. So it can be really hard to get people together. I'm closer to Jackson Hole than I am to Reno or Las Vegas. So it can be hard in a state where everybody is so rural and so spread out to get that unity amongst each other, even in the same sport.
Right.
So we're kind of spread out across the state, and we do a lot of stuff through social media. Our slogan is to promote the use of sporting dogs for hunting and conservation through public education. We're not a hound-only group. We support any type of working dog, really. Our focus is on hunting dogs, as often the spotlight is on hunting dogs, and those are our personal passions in dogs. But we're for sled dog guys, stock dog guys, using cattle dogs, sheep dogs, any type of working dog, really, because eventually they'll all come under fire. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and in what order. And like you were talking, houndsmen, it's kind of interesting to think that houndsmen are really such a minority in the hunting community. But if you look at the legislation that's aimed at the hunting community, if you look at the bad press that comes to or from the hunting community, a lot of it centers around that very, very small minority.
Yes, that is so true. And just to give an exclamation point on that, when we look at the total number of hunters in the United States, it's around 11 million now. That's not very many people when you consider a country with 330 million people in it. 11 million people right now are licensed hunters. And then you take that pie and you slice it down even thinner, and there you have your houndsmen. So when you look at the total picture of the population of the United States, we're a fraction of a percent, 1% of the United States population. But if you look at the efforts of the Humane Society, PETA, some of these activist groups, and those are just the big ones that everybody would recognize. You've got splinter groups and smaller groups that are also focusing their efforts on eliminating hunting with hounds. And it's we get, like you said, we get a lot of press. We get a lot of effort put out there to stop our style of hunting.
Absolutely. And you look at how similar in lifestyle, in ideals, generally speaking, a lot of the smaller subset that we houndsmen are, that we share a lot of the same ideals. Now you look at a giant group like the Humane Society, any of those anti-groups, and they have a ton of members, and you think, what makes them different? They're extremely organized. They all have a common goal. And the thing that has kind of come to my attention is, while they have common goals as far as, animal rights go, and that's something else that needs touched on, I think, in the general public, is animal welfare is very different than animal rights. I am all for animal welfare. Animal rights is a completely different story. It's a completely different animal, no pun intended.
Differentiate that.
For me, in my personal opinion, animal welfare is a standard that animals should be taken care of. Yes, they need shelter. Yes, they need food. Yes, they need water. They need training. It's the basics. Whereas animal rights is, these animals need to have individual rights. They should be represented have legal representation. They should have the ability to choose the way they live their life. It's really anthropomorphizing and humanizing animals to make people feel better. Animals just want to be animals. It's not fair to expect a dog to be a human, whether in the way that you're thinking when you're training them, in the way you're treating them. You know, I may step on a few toes here saying a dog doesn't...
Don't worry, I step on toes all the time.
Perfect. You know, a dog doesn't want to wear a sweater. Your dog may not be happy on the couch while you're working 8 hours a day. Your dog wants to be out doing dog things. You know, they want to be out sniffing out nasty stuff and rolling in horse turds and just being a dog. You know, they don't have that thought process that we do that says, oh, well, poor me, I should be doing this or should be doing that. So it's up to us to sit there and say, okay, what are your innate desires? And how can I do the best I can to give you those? How can I allow you to live your best natural life, I guess you could call it?
As houndsmen, our lifestyle is under constant attack. The Houndsman XP podcast was created to give houndsmen a credible voice, to maintain their rights and their freedoms to free cast their hounds on well-managed game populations. We need your support. I am asking you to go to our website at houndsmanxp.com, find the support button. It's right on the front page. Click that. It will take you to our Patreon page. We already have several dedicated houndsmen who have stepped up and said they want to be a part of this lifestyle to preserve, protect, and promote hound hunting. For as little as $1 per show, you are going to receive benefits from Houndsman XP. You're going to receive discount codes on the gear that you need that keeps you in the field, keeps those hounds on the ground, and you following your... With your Patreon support, you're going to be privy to pro tips, tailgate talks, bonus material that is not available to the public. We also offer a blog space there, a message board where you can come and post pictures of your hunts in an uncensored environment and showcase your hounds and the work you're doing when you're out there hunting. Join us on Patreon. Go to houndsmanxp.com, click the support button, and take a stand with other dedicated houndsmen for your freedoms today. Can you imagine being a dog in New York City where you never see a blade of grass?
I could, but I don't want to. One of the saddest things I see in a populated area is you'll see a dog, let's say, for example, some of my favorites, the beagles. I say that because they're a very popular pet. You know, oh, they're a great kid's dog, they're this, they're that. And one of the saddest things that I can see, they're obese. And they'll be walking on a flexi lead, you know, the extendable leads or a 6-foot lead. And you can tell all this dog is straining to do is to sit there and smell. Everything their body and their brain is telling them to do is to smell. And they're being drug along, you know, come on there, Shiloh, let's go. Let's take our walk around the block and then go sit on the couch for 8 hours. And it's like everything in that dog's body is just screaming, let me smell this. And they can't do the most basic thing. They're being loved to death.
There used to be a lady in my hometown here, and she had a beagle that she would walk around town on a flex leash. And that beagle had that thing stretched out as far as he could get it. And she was leaning back, and it always looked like the dog was walking her because she was her dog was obese. She was obese. So it was kind of comical to watch this thing. And I'm thinking, turn that dog loose. He would love to go run and hunt and do things like that. So,
I mean, to be fair, he's probably so fat, he's not going to go very far. You're going to be able to catch him again.
Well, she sure wouldn't have caught him. I guarantee you that. There's no way. If she'd have had to have somebody catch him for her. But, so let's get back to the Nevada Sporting Dog Alliance and talk about how many members do you have?
So right now we have about 50. I don't have an exact count as we're in the process of doing membership renewals. So I'll have a better count.
You have how many?
About 50.
50 members in a state where a county is bigger than some of the states in the United States. You only have 50 members.
Yep. And some of that, it's kind of hard to get exposure. We're doing it based off social media. And then some of it goes back to there's a lot of sub-cliques in sportsman groups. It can sometimes be hard to garner support until something big happens. This is, I'm not dogging anybody. I'm not, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. My goal for the group would be to.
I'm gonna let you off the hook here a little bit, because how many houndsmen do you think are in the state of Nevada?
Oh.
How many sporting dogs are in the state of Nevada?
Quite a few. I mean,
thousands.
Absolutely.
Thousands.
Sucker hunting is absolutely huge here. Upland game, terrier work is not as big, but we do have a lot of, badgers, rock chucks, things like that. There are certainly terrier guys in the state using, patterdales. There's coursing dogs, waterfowl dogs.
Mm-hmm.
We do have what little waterfowl hunting we do have is really good. I mean, there's you see Chessies and Labs and Goldens and Poodle Pointers and everything.
Okay, so this is where I'm going to let you off the hook, because you want to garner support out there. I'm going to ask the question: why, houndsmen, are you not supporting an organization like Nevada Sporting Dog Alliance? Because I've tracked the work that you're doing. I know some of the people that are involved in your organization. I know that you're all very passionate about the lifestyle that you're promoting through Hunting Dog. You're spending your time, your resources, probably some of your own finances to encourage and enable houndsmen to get out there and be able to do what they do. So from Houndsman XP, I'm challenging the houndsmen from Nevada to get involved in the NSDA and support the people that are fighting for your rights. There's just no other way to put it. I don't know any houndsman that want freebies or handouts or anything else, but when houndsmen sit back and let other people carry the ball for them and then reap the benefits, then you might as well just put your hand out, because that's what you're doing when you don't get involved. You're expecting somebody else to secure something so you can enjoy it for nothing. So get involved. So what's a membership cost?
So for our annual membership, it's $25, and then it's $500 for a life.
$25.
Yeah, it's $500 for a lifetime, and that's something you can do right on our website. Our website is NevadaSportingDogAlliance.com. We have a lot of interesting things on there, really. We've done, like I said, we've done interviews with the head predator biologist for the state. We do something called tailgate sessions as far as educational stuff, where we'll go over things like, how I...
Hey, we do those here.
Yeah. I go over things like how I start my puppies in obedience, at what age, microchipping. That's something that I wish you would see more of in the hound community, is microchipping. It is not something you have to do at your vet. I had a dog go missing. Well, I had a breakout from my house in Colorado where dogs got out of a pen and everybody kind of split different directions, and I was gathering up through the neighborhood. Somebody caught one of them, took the collar off, dumped him at the pound further away, because that is often an anti-tactic, as we all know. They were not microchipped at the time, and the dog sat in the pound for 3 days before, and our dogs are freeze branded. They have our last name freeze branded across their ribs, which is great if somebody knows what a Dwire is. That's more so a houndsman.
Dwire, what kind of dog is that?
Exactly. And that cost me $80 to get the dog out of the pound, which, okay, I'm not complaining about that. It's certainly warranted. For $40, I can go buy a 10-pack of microchips that I can do myself that are free registration. So I would have already been ahead of the game right there. I'd have had the dog back the same day. The first thing that they do when a dog comes into a pound or comes in, let's say your dog is chasing a bear or something, gets hit on the road, somebody picks them up, takes them to a vet, I found this poor dog, blah, blah, blah. If they don't check the collar for whatever reason, that does happen. The first thing they do is scan the dog for a microchip. Are microchips fail-proof? No. Do they migrate? Do they reject? Yes, they do. But they're pretty darn. They've got them pretty good. I mean, if you've got a microchip in your dog, there's a 95% chance of reuniting.
Right.
And that's something I would love to see houndsmen do more. But that's a video that we do, and information on where you can get the microchip, how you register it, how you do it, how you apply it to the dog. So we have all kinds of different educational videos on that stuff. We have. And
what else are you doing? You're doing something with bear hunters out there that when a person draws a tag, you do training. You provide training for bear hunters. Is that correct?
So we don't. That is actually through the state game agency. It is mandatory for the tag holders or their representative. So let's say, you draw a bear tag in Nevada. Obviously, you don't have time to come out to the training to just fly out for that because it is before the bear season starts. So the person who's guiding you and is going to be directly with you on the hunt can take your place in that class. And you do not get your tag issued until you go to that bear indoctrination class is what it's called. And they basically go over regulations and kind of the ins and outs of a Nevada bear hunt. And something that we do is we type up a flyer every year to be passed out at that indoctrination class. And it goes on everything from kind of a little ethics reminders to recipes on how to utilize your bear meat if you choose to. We also tell people where they can donate their bear meat to be distributed to the less fortunate if they don't want their bear meat. Some people like it, some people don't. We talk about how, yes, utilizing your bear meat does, in fact, create a better public image. And you don't want to say that because it sounds like you're saying, oh, only do this so it looks good in the public eye. And that's not the case at all. But you can't hunt and not consider public image. You just can't, or you shouldn't.
Right. Exactly. And we were talking off air about a book that I'm reading right now, put out by the NRA called How to Talk About Hunting. And one of the statistics that they put in there was how the general public is very accepting of hunting for food or substance hunting. And they are extremely turned off by what has been misnomered or mischaracterized as trophy hunting. And there's an overwhelming support. Above 80% are in favor of hunting for meat, for high-quality protein, to put food on the table, and utilization of that wild resource out there. And so, absolutely, public perception is very important. And it always, I asked somebody one time, is it time to rewrite the North American model for wildlife conservation? And the first tenet is wildlife is a public trust. And since what year was Pittman Robertson written? In the 50s? 1956 maybe? At any rate.
It's close in there.
Yeah. Hunters have footed the bill and carried the ball for wildlife enthusiasts for a number of years. And as our numbers go down, it seems like we have less and less say, but we still have the most invested. What's your opinion on that? About changing the first tenet of the North American model?
I think it's a slippery slope. We have to be so careful to not box ourselves in or out of certain things, certain areas involved in the hunting. And I definitely see where you're coming from. I would really have to, I think it would depend on how it was changed and what it was changed to. Mm-hmm. Do I think that the model can be cherry picked depending on what you're wanting? On both sides, yeah, absolutely. I don't know how you get away from that, though. How do you put more restrictions on who is in charge and still make sure that the correct people are? How do you
it's a
keep
complex
the ranks from being infiltrated, I guess you could say? Probably not the greatest term to use, but going through that way. And then how do you... We can police hunters.
It's a complex issue.
True. And I mean, we can police hunters. We can stay within our own group as much as a person can, and it's not going to make necessarily the biggest difference. You know, one of the things we really try and do with the NSDA is public education. You know, I go around and speak to some universities, even kind of on myself and behalf of the NSDA as well, speak to wildlife management classes about hound hunting, kind of giving them a different view. And the first thing I say when I walk into a class is, I am not here to form an opinion for you. I'm not here to change your mind. I'm not here to tell you you need to believe this. I am here to present you with the facts, and all I ask is you go home and you think about this and you look up the facts and you do the research for yourself and form your own opinion. I just ask that you look at both sides of the coin and keep that in mind throughout your career in wildlife management, whether it's a game warden, a biologist, a wildlife rehabber, whatever the case may be.
I agree with everything you said. Getting back to that question I asked you about changing the first tenant. I've put a lot of thought into that. And there are some people out there who are extreme. They're very pro. If you're not a hunter, you have no say. And that's just not reality. It's never going to happen as long as governments are in charge of managing our wildlife, when bureaucrats have to make those decisions. So, and that's not a bad system. I mean, the North American model is the most successful program in the history of wildlife conservation, hands down. There is no argument about that. And I think hunters just need to take a bigger investment in educating the public. This COVID thing this past year, this pandemic, has seen hunter increases at a rate that we haven't witnessed since the golden age of conservation post World War II. When the hunter numbers just went through the roof. So we have an opportunity here. We've got people who are looking for information, who want to learn how to hunt, that want to look for that natural protein, and organizations and individual hunters can either push that aside and say, we don't want you here, or we can mentor those people and train them and bring them up in a way that is producing responsible hunters who are going to be friends down the road.
That's true. And, you know, I think one thing that has happened a lot, too, is people have used the approach of getting in touch with their natural carnivore and this and however you want to.
Right.
Donnie Vincent is a great example of that. His pictures speak volumes. They do. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I have no issue with it. The other thing I think that probably needs to be considered as well is if we're going to be using science to push our point and to prove our point as well as emotion, we sit here and say, okay, even if, you know, Steve the deer hunter doesn't have an emotional tie to whitetail hunting, the science still shows this is okay. This is a sustainable rate of mortality no matter what the hunter's reasoning is. This is a biologically scientific sound process. No matter what your reasoning behind what makes you tick with hunting, I guess would be a good way to put it. No matter if it's because you want to go out and you want to kill a big deer, or you want to go have that emotional experience of harvesting your own free range meat. No matter what your reasoning, I guess the end result is still okay.
Yeah, you're right,
really,
and it's
the fact, you know, we've used these words, and I use them too. You know, harvest, take. That we can't get away from the fact we're still killing. When it comes down to it, you're killing, and we can't soften the blow to the public so much that we lose sight of what it really is, because then it almost seems like you're misleading it away. And I think that's where it's important to have your emotion and your science. If the way I'm explaining
disingenuous.
Yeah.
You're portraying yourself in a disingenuous manner. And I don't know any hunter that when the big bear goes down or the big deer goes down or the big elk or whatever it is, doesn't do a fist pump, and they've accomplished a goal, something they set out to do. Mm-hmm. And then when we present it to the public, we've got this very emotionally charged picture of a guy sitting there wiping the tears off his face so that he can post that on social media and be accepted.
Right. Yep, absolutely.
And it's disingenuous to some extent. There's been all kinds of conversations about grip and grins and trying to decide what the ethics are for presenting ourselves as hunters in an accurate way. And if we're going to be accurate, then you can do that in a way that's not disingenuous. Hunting is the surveyors or survey of hunters. The overwhelming majority of hunters do it for enjoyment, and I think a lot of times we get wrapped up into trying to talk this science walk. If I didn't enjoy hunting my hounds, if it was something that I didn't truly enjoy, I wouldn't do it. Would you?
Oh, exactly, man. It's not like
would you have dogs if you didn't get any enjoyment?
I wouldn't have as many as I have. I know that much. It's not like you're calling in and saying, "Oh, they've only harvested 6 bears in Unit 642, so I better get out there and do my scientific civic duty." I mean,
exactly.
There's a mixed bag of everything for sure, and I just feel like we can't lose sight of one or the other, and that's kind of what we try and do in educating the public. Is yes, there is this reason, there's also this reason, and this reason. You can back up your feelings, and your feelings can back up the science, I guess, in a way too. As far as
when I turn a hound loose, I'm not sitting there and I'm not thinking I'm going to do my part for wildlife management this evening. I'm going because, man, I like hunting this dog, and I like being out here. This is fun. So we can make that, we can bridge that gap by being accurate and depicting ourselves in a way that people understand. I mean, the reason people go to baseball games or they play baseball is because they're having fun. They're not thinking about, this is good for my cardiovascular system right now. They enjoy it. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying what we do. And we just have to figure out how we're going to deliver that message.
Absolutely. And that's the key, is the delivery. Me personally, I would love to find a way to get with some of these, and they wouldn't have to be, in the spotlight. I'm not talking about taking Wayne Purcell, the head of ex-head of the Humane Society, hunting. But if we can reach, and the thing is, you'll never, if this has been said 100 times, you will never change the hardcore anti's perspective.
Nope.
You have to get the people who are in the middle, who don't know any better, who don't even know. If you said, "Oh yeah, I'm a hound hunter," they would say, "What?" They don't even know this way of
why are you hunting hounds? Yeah, why are you hunting hounds?
Exactly.
What they put this picture in their mind like we're turning dogs loose and hounds loose, and then we're going to go out and hunt them down.
That's exactly what it is, and they see something, God knows, because something's on Facebook, it's true. So they see this misnomered, misrepresented anything on Facebook, and Sally, the soccer mom, goes, "Oh my God, that is horrible. They're chasing bears to exhaustion with dogs, and then they walk up and kill them." It's social media has been a double-edged sword.
It has been
a lot of things. I mean, to about anything you can think of, but especially to the sporting groups. And nobody takes the time to fact check anymore on both sides. I mean, that's you can't say one thing about one people and not doing it on the other.
Yeah,
unless you work for Facebook.
Everybody's getting fact checked. Everybody's getting fact checked, Becky.
Fact,
Everybody.
allegedly. And that would be kind of my goal too. Is the voting public, if you think about it, is really kind of a sleeping giant. They hold the fate in their hands, and that is something if I could describe my perfect Nevada Sporting Dog Alliance, would be a sleeping giant, because Nevada is kind of a forgotten state in a lot of ways. When you think of the West, you think of Colorado, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Oregon, that. No one really, everybody, oh yeah, Nevada.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It's just a fly-in point that people come and spend the weekend and fly home, and people don't say, I'm going to Nevada. They say, I'm going to Vegas.
Exactly. It's all desert and hookers.
Yeah.
That's kind of what people think. I can't tell you how many times we've had clients say, you better bring this, this, and this, going through your checklist with them. Oh, it doesn't snow there. It doesn't get cold. All right. I'll remind you of that.
Yeah. How high are you guys there at Wells? What's your elevation?
I think we're at like 55, 56, somewhere right in there. And that's down in the valley.
Cold.
Oh, it gets cold. Yeah. There in the wind. It's kind of funny when I actually had something pop up in my memories on Facebook the other day that I had posted a while back, and it said, it always makes me laugh when you tell people you live in Wells or around Wells, Elko County, because the first thing people either say is, don't blink, you'll drive through it, or, oh my God, that is some cold, windy, nasty country. And it's like, yes, it is. In fact, we're all Eskimos. We travel by dog sled and we survive on seal meat. It is a pretty, Cleave's brother who lives in southern Nevada refers to it as Siberia.
Yeah.
And that kind of shows you, again, it goes back to the spread out mentality of Nevada and why it can be hard to garner support. So we we're lucky in the aspect of we can be semi-limited to the bad press we get, to the petitions. You've got states like Colorado, say, or Idaho, where they're so game diverse, they might be getting hit with 6 different petitions at once. They might have something on wolves, bears, lions, and trapping. Whereas we might tend to see it, 2 at a time or something like that. But people don't think about us, so we're often fighting them on our own. My goal, and I think that kind of can sometimes work against us to take a step back. I think that can sometimes work against us in a way, because we get lulled into a false sense of security. And then when something like this bear petition pops up, it's a big panic. We have to do something now. My goal would be to be on the offensive, not the defensive. I would rather have the membership and have the sleeping giant and say, hey guys, we really appreciate your support. Nothing's going on right now. But knowing that when we need it, we've got it right there instant, versus, okay, we've got a month to try and garner support. We've got, and not that we don't do things to try and rally support in the meantime. We have been, for sure. It's just hard to get it out there unless something is in your face happening right now. So, my goal.
I've got a real good friend of mine. Yeah. I've got a real good friend of mine that's worked on this for decades with the Indiana Sportsman's Roundtable and different groups here, and he summed it up real well. When there is no cause to fight for, the hook and bullet crowd gets very comfortable. We all want to just go out and do our thing. When there isn't something to worry about, then don't bother me. I want to be in the field. I don't want to be thinking about the things that are threatening my lifestyle.
Absolutely.
That's why we go there. Guys buy property and they manage for deer herds, or they go they go coon hunting or lion hunting to escape that. And that's all good, but at the same time, you're not doing that. I don't know anybody really nobody is hunting 24 hours a day. So we can't lose sight of the fact that we have to be aware of what's going on in the world around us. And you brought up something that we wanted to talk about, and that's the main, not the main thing, but one of the things that you need help with out there right now is the petition that was filed to stop the use of hounds to hunt black bears in Nevada. So what can you tell us about that?
So there is a petition right now that is in front of our Wildlife Commission board to stop, like you said, stop the use of hounds in the bear hunt. Nevada has an interesting bear population in the aspect of we've had such good recovery with them, and we have a very high quality bear population. It is not spread across the state, but it is ever expanding. Like, we'll probably have a bear or two every year, 2 years pass through the area that I live. They could absolutely live there, but they have to cross from where the population has spilled over from the Sierras and been manicured in the western side of the state. They'd have to cross some country that would be a little tougher for them to make it in order to get there. Western Nevada has some amazing bear hunting. There are a ton of bears just right in, Lake Tahoe and Incline Village, which is kind of like Nevada's, Aspen, Colorado, or McCall, Idaho. It is the tourist area to go besides Vegas. It's beautiful. There's a lot of water. There's a lot of timber. It's just a beautiful area. So a lot of people go there. It's a lot of second homes there, skiing. You get out of the rural ranch and resource run areas of Nevada when you get into that area. And there are a lot of bears there.
You brought up Sierras and the Sierra Nevada and also Lake Tahoe. And for anybody that doesn't know, I mean, just look at Lake Tahoe, and the state line runs right through the middle of Lake Tahoe. And so you've got a mixed crowd there. You've got, I would say, probably 2/3 of that lake is in, maybe 3/4 of it are in California. So you've got a shared population around that lake, where on one side you've got California and on the other side you've got Nevada. How much of this issue is being centered or originating from the Lake Tahoe region with this petition? And understand, maybe we ought to back up just a little bit. The way that wildlife rules are formulated and finalized is through wildlife resource commissions across the United States. And so anyone can file a petition with a resource commission committee and push for whatever change they want. And that goes back to that first tenet of wildlife as a public trust. And in this case, we've got a group from the Tahoe area that has filed a petition to stop the bear hunt. Is that accurate?
It is. We have a lot of opposition from that area. They live with the bears. They see them every day. They're walking through the neighborhoods. They're taking pictures. They're seeing the cubs grow up. One of the worst things that can happen to a wildlife species is when individuals start getting named. That's George the bear or Cecil the lion,
right.
Or it gives that animal, it starts the anthropomorphization of them, and it gives that animal a individual identity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what has happened. And we have an extreme, going back to being right there on the California border, California has an estimated 35 to 40,000 bears. There is an imaginary state line. The bears are not walking and being like, "Oh, we're in Nevada, better turn around." We constantly.
I'm going to Vegas.
Yeah, exactly. What happens there stays there. We constantly get the spillover coming over the Sierras and through the Sierras. Like I said, they don't stay within the state lines. So you look at California, their harvest limit or their kill limit is 1,700 bears. Our population, and what we consider a population is 18 months, individuals 18 months and older, is 600 to 700. Our kill limit is 20 bears. Now, if you look at the average over the years, they're actually killing about 14 bears per year. So while your average bear population can sustain about a 10%, give or take, harvest mortality from hunters alone before you start to see population effects from that. Our harvest statistics are 2 to 3%, and that's based on the 20 bear kill number. So if you go to 14, we're actually closer to like a 1.8 to 2.5. So it's an extremely light harvest.
It comes out to about 54%, if I'm not mistaken. Around 54% of your quota is being filled. And then you look back at California and you're getting those influx of bears. You know, there's a 1,700, and they haven't filled their quota in years. You know, I think last year they're out of 14, what did you say, 1,700 bears?
Yes.
For a California quota. I think there were 900 and some bears that were actually taken last year. So you've still got that quota that's not being filled in California. You're getting the influx of those overflows into Nevada. Your quota is not being filled. So then it comes down to a management issue, and those numbers weren't just pulled out of thin air and say, I think we'll kill 20 bears this year.
Right. That's
not what anybody did. We looked. The biologists look at the population and decide what we need to take out to maintain a healthy, viable black bear population that is manageable for human conflict and also hunter satisfaction. And, you know, there's a lot of factors that go into that. So the fact that Nevada nor California are killing the quota limit for the bears, I'm not sure what the problem is.
And I feel like we should mention too, the quotas are not being filled because there aren't ample opportunity. It's not like you're not seeing bears, you're not getting the opportunity to harvest. There's not enough bears out there. That is not the case at all.
Right.
And, you know, you look at the statistics, 71% of and this is in the state of Nevada, obviously, 71% of the successful hunters use dogs. And in that case, 1.5 bears, if you put the mean together, were passed on by dog hunters. So that is showing a selectivity by hunters using dogs. And I'm going to say something that I'm not against spot and stalk hunting. I'm not against, someone's out deer hunting, they see a bear. Oh, cool. I'm going to go film a bear tag. There is a certain advantage that hunting with dogs gives you by being able to get up close. It can be hard at 600 yards to see if it's a boar or a sow, or to really
we have
be
talked
able to
about
look
that
at
on
that
this
animal.
podcast. Yep. There is no more effective way to manage a wildlife population, especially like bears or mountain lions. And I've even done it with raccoons, where you can make an educated decision on whether or not to take that animal.
That's the only form of catch and release hunting.
That's right. And you think, raccoons, how do you do that with raccoons? Well, that's a whole different thing, but you actually can figure it out. And like in the month of March, the sow raccoon are heavy with kittens. So they're normally not way out on the end of branches. They're closer, and Indiana has done some studies on that. So they're hugging they don't climb as high because they're heavy with kits. And there is a way, believe me. But bear and lions, you're right there. That bear or lion's not going anywhere. Sometimes they're 15 feet in the tree. Sometimes they're 200 feet in the tree. But with a set of binoculars, you can make pretty good educated decisions on whether or not to take that animal.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that I feel like is an important thing to get into the public eye. Because that's, no one who sees hound hunting that is not familiar with that, who hasn't done it, is going to think of that aspect.
Right, exactly. So that's I think there's some opportunity here for us to improve our message for houndsmen, and that's one thing that we are always trying to do on this podcast is help people develop an effective narrative to be able to talk about why they do what they do. And groups like the Nevada Sporting Dog Alliance and the work you're doing out there helps us do that. So tell us real briefly where the petition is at right now. What's the status of that petition, and the what stage of the process is it in with the Nevada Wildlife Commission?
So it's still in front of the commission currently. It was on the agenda to be looked at and discussed at the last commission meeting. There was a clerical error that put a stop to that. So it is going to be revisited as a workshop in March at their March meeting. We have all that information posted on the NSDA Facebook page. We also have a sample of letters that we have written that people can either send copies of or pull facts and information from that to create their own letter. I think a lot of times because people don't see a direct return from sending emails, they think that it doesn't really help and it doesn't matter. It is a huge help. I mean, in these Wildlife Commission meetings, there is a section under each agenda item for public comment. And that is one of the most important things we can do as hunters, is to have that public comment. You know, these Wildlife Commission boards are made up of members of different interests. They have hunting interests, conservation interests, ranching, here it's ranching interests or farming interests, and a member of the general public. So they want it to be really a well-rounded group making these decisions, as it should be. So it's important for us to be sending these emails. Yeah, you're not going to get an email back saying, oh, great, we really appreciate it, et cetera, et cetera. But the emails aren't going unnoticed. And if I look at it, is it a pain in the neck to write emails at times? Absolutely. But then I sit on Facebook and scroll for 20 minutes. So it's like, well, if I've got 20 minutes to do that, I've got 5 minutes to write an email, it's kind of prioritizing for me, it might not be fun, but it needs done. That's kind of life and being an adult. So we have their emails listed on there, how you can get in contact with the commissioners. I will say, if you do go look at that list, the last email on the email list has a space or a couple of spaces throughout the email that will need to be removed and will be need to set in the original email format. For whatever reason, Facebook does not like that email, and no matter which way I've tried to format it, it blocks the post saying it goes against their community standards. So
could a Nevada houndsman contact you for a direct link to that or a direct email to that?
Oh, anybody can.
Through Messenger?
Yep, anybody can do that. You can do that. We ask that, even if you're like, okay, I don't hunt Nevada, so I am going to put a $25 membership into a state that I hunt in, a group in a state that I hunt in. Cool. I hope you do that. But you can still, you can like posts, you can share posts. Just getting that publicity going out there will help also. A lot of people, times are hard. The virus has taken jobs from people. It's taken extra money. There's still things we can do that don't cost anything. Educating the public, taking an anti-hunter or a non-hunter out hunting, getting a kid involved, anything like that. We actually had a really cool experience this year where we caught a lion, I think he was 20 yards onto a private ranch property. And the ranch owner had actually heard our dogs, because it was right in front of their headquarters, out there. And he came out and he's like, hey, what's going on? Not in a bad way. He was just curious. He hadn't really been around it. He's like, oh, I heard dogs and thought they sounded like hounds. And he saw our truck drive by. And I said, yeah, we've got a really big tom that we're after right now. And I think we'll probably catch him here pretty quick. And he's got 5 kids under the age of 10. And I said, hey, if the kids are interested and they want to see a lion in a tree, I'll let you know if we get them caught in an area they can easily hike to, being young like that. I mean, it's kind of hard to drag them up the side of the mountain. And if we get it, we'll run down and grab you guys and the kids. So it was super cool. We had the hunter with us, caught the lion, and it was right on their property line, and ran back to the house, grabbed the mom, the husband, and all 5 kids, and they got to go in there and see the lion. And after the lion had been had been shot, they went down there and they're over there petting him and looking at the teeth and the claws. And it's always great when they go to reach for the teeth and you go, and move the head a little bit, and they jump back and laugh and giggle. And, if you think about it, these kids that are being born now, clear up to college age, these are the next generation of public voters. They are the next wildlife managers. They are the next sportsmen. It's important to, while we're trying to preserve what we have now and reach the voters that are out there now, we need to be thinking about the next ones coming up too, and how we're influencing them.
No doubt about that. None of those kids, not one of those kids may ever become a houndsman. But if we make a positive impression, if we make an investment, then they aren't going to vote against us. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's something that you look back at and say, yeah, when I was 7 years old, that's something those kids probably drove their parents nuts talking about it for the next 2 weeks. They're probably sicking the ranch border collies on the barn calves left and right now. Chasing them up the apple trees.
Well, Becky, I think about this a lot. Producing this podcast and stuff, I think about how we can get that image out there and how we can send a positive message. These kids, one of these days, they're going to be in a group of other people their age, and or they're going to see something on social media that is against houndsmen, and it's going to talk about being cold, bloodthirsty killers, that their dogs are vicious, and by you taking the time and making that effort to say, hey, we'll come back and get you and take your family in there, now you've got 5 kids that are going to be like, that's not accurate. That's not the impression that I got from Becky and Cleave Dwire. Their dogs weren't vicious, and they were pretty nice people, and so we're going to discredit and disarm the opponents to hunting with hounds right off the bat every time we do something positive like that.
Absolutely.
Every time.
It's funny. It can sometimes come in ways that you don't think of either. For example, this happened probably 6 weeks ago. Our niece lives in North Idaho. She's going to school up there, and she's working a part-time job while she's going through school, and she's spent some time living with us, and while she's never been on a hound. I mean, she's gone hunting with us, but she's not into the hounds in any other aspect other than us. She'd like to get her own dogs when she's out of school, and she'd be great at it. And she was at work, and she shares all of our Bull Creek stuff and whatnot, and she's really into it, And she was at work, and she was talking to a gal, and they were talking about, I don't remember, somehow the topic turned to lion hunting or bear hunting, and this gal is not a hunter that she works with. And she said, oh, I don't agree with that. And our niece goes, well, why not? And she said, oh, my boyfriend's uncle or whatever has dogs, and he I'm trying to think of, they're treated differently, more so as a tool. He didn't want people petting them because they wouldn't want to hunt, things like that, and I'm not trying to pick on the guy. There's different beliefs. You can believe what you believe, and I believe what I believe, and we can all get along. And so she's like, well, I don't agree with that because they're just used as tools, and houndsmen don't care about their dogs. They're not pets. They're not family members, whatever the case may be, the word that she used. I wasn't there, but I got the general gist of it. And our niece said, okay, so let me show you this. And she started scrolling through some of the social media stuff and showing this gal. She's like, look at this. These puppies are getting worked with. We went out and took them swimming, doing all kinds of different stuff. And by the end of the conversation, that gal had such a different perspective. And she actually thanked her and said, thank you so much for showing me this, because this was the only exposure that I had to hounds previous to talking with you. And it just happened to come up the way they were talking. Like, it wasn't even I think I had sent my niece a picture or a Snapchat of one of the dogs doing something funny or whatever, and she was laughing and showed the coworker, and that was how they got on the topic. But it can affect people that you would never think that it would, just doing one thing. And I think that's the important thing to remember in all of this is even people you don't know
we're not going to be able
to by you.
We are not going to save this. We're not going to secure our future by ourselves. There aren't enough of us to do that. But by positive education and exposures, then we get secondary exposure through people that we've influenced in a positive way. You know, now they can sit there and it's like, that's not what I've seen out of Houndsman. You know, Becky Dwire takes her 2-day-old puppies and rubs her paws with Q-tips, you know. And that was a good video, by the way. That was a good little post you made on social media. But, I mean, I always try to, if I'm out in the mountains and the mountains were full of people, I spent all summer out there this year, the mountains were full of people that were out doing something. They couldn't go to restaurants, so they were in the mountains. And some people were upset about that. But we just took the opportunity when we saw a family to stop the truck. And because most of the roads were narrow, so we'd stop the truck and we'd engage in conversation. And they would say, "What are you doing?" Our dogs would all have their heads sticking out of the side of the dog box, looking out at them. And before you know it, the whole family's out of the car and they're petting dogs and they're having a conversation with people that aren't mean, who aren't out there bloodthirsty killers. It just, so you just have to wonder what kind of impression did you make and what's their next emotional response going to be when they see some of this stuff come out. So
absolutely, and you have to think
you're spot on.
You have to think too. You're not always going to win. I mean, we had an instance where we caught a lion right on the edge of private property again. I believe it was just over the property line.
Your dogs trespass a lot.
They do. It happens at times. Thankfully, it wasn't, because the nice thing about here is it has to be fenced or posted.
Right.
So we talked to the landowner, and they said, yeah, that's fine. Would you like to go along? They ended up deciding they did not like lion hunting, and completely flipped their. And not that there was anything that happened. They had a little bit of a non-realistic belief about the lion, that individual lion, and they were not fans. But something to think about is, okay, so if 100% of your average voter is uneducated, if you have a 50-50 on turning them for it or against it, you're still ahead making 50% of them for it.
Yes. Good point.
I mean you're never going to have anybody on your side all the time. And if you do, it's probably because you've locked yourself in an echo chamber, and that's a whole other topic for a whole other day. But you can't affect the way people think, but you can sure try to influence it.
Right.
Or you can't control, I should say. You can affect it. You can't control how people think, but you can sure try to influence it.
I think you and I could probably go on for a few days talking about these sort of topics. I've spent a lot of my time thinking about how we can improve and preserve, protect, and promote the Houndsman lifestyle. I know that you have. But real quick, Becky, give us the rundown again on how Houndsman can step up and support the Nevada Houndsman on putting down this petition that is emotionally charged. And do we want to mention the group that I mean, it's public record. The No Bear Hunt MV is the group that filed the petition. And if you visit their site on Facebook, you can see this type of battle that you're fighting there and what you're up against. Absolutely.
It kind of shows you a snapshot of the thinking of the other side. I just ask that people
don't respond.
Yeah,
you don't need to go in there and respond. Just go in there and look.
And you guys are a bunch of idiots and this, that, and the other. Instead, I ask that people would take that energy and put that towards support on our side. It is a very emotion-based petition. They're pretty much running on emotion, and as we know, that is what drives a lot of people. If you can go in, and even if it's just a paragraph email, hey, I support the Nevada bear hunt because of these reasons, and something to think about too is our game department is a little different than most funding-wise, because we are pretty much everything in the state besides fishing, game birds, coyotes, small game like jackrabbits and whatnot, and mountain lions. Everything else is a draw. You might wait 10 or 15 years to draw a bull elk tag. Now, granted, when you do, you got a really good chance at killing a 400-inch or better bull, but it's very heavily managed, and I think that's good. But that cuts our game department funding more so than most. If you have over-the-counter tags at $600 a pop, they've got a lot bigger budget to work with. So another thing that you can mention is, the economic loss that would come as well. If you want to cover all the ratios, from the emotion, we love running our dogs, the bear hunt is sustainable, everything, you're taking out people staying in motels, eating in cafes, buying gas at rural gas stations and buying a pop and a hot dog, the price of the bear tag itself, all of that. People say, well, it's only 20 tags. Well, it still adds up. I wouldn't want to foot the bill for that, So there's a whole
fiscal
different
impact.
aspect. Absolutely. There's a whole different aspect of things and different scenarios that you can put into that. It doesn't have to be a generic, I support the bear hunt, follow science, and signed. You can really put your own words into it, or you can just do the generic, I support the bear hunt and science. It kind of gives you a lot of different options, all the different options that you can do. But yeah, emails are huge.
And people can send that where do they go to get that, to make that?
So you can go onto our Facebook at Nevada Sporting Dog Alliance. You can go onto our website to get the facts and get statistics and whatnot, and get a copy of the letter that we as a group, as an organization, sent in to the wildlife commissioners. And then as far as getting their email, you can find their emails on the Nevada Department of Wildlife website. You can find them on our Facebook. You can email us or message us on the Facebook app, and we'll get that all for you. We kind of have it plastered all over. They also have a YouTube channel that they live stream all of the Nevada Wildlife Commission meetings and then save it to a playlist. So you can go back and watch and see what happened. You can watch the meetings in real time, which is really nice, especially for an area as spread out population-wise as ours. I may have something going on the next day and not be able to drive 6 hours to the commission meeting, but I can sit there and watch it in real time. And when they're doing it virtually now, they do take 5-minute breaks or 8-minute, however long they think they'll need, breaks after the agenda item to allow people to email in right after. So people can email in before the meeting in March. I have to look and see the date, and I will post that for sure. We'll be posting quite a bit. We're going to be having a meeting of the NSDA officers here shortly, and we'll be posting what we're going to be doing to combat it from here on out. So I'll have more information on that, but definitely watch the NSDA page. And I post the links to those live feeds of the commission meetings as well. So if you can email beforehand, you can email during the meeting. I personally email more beforehand just because, like we were talking off air, neither one, you're not very technological advanced, and neither am I. Sometimes I'm lucky to get my iPhone to work. So I like to email beforehand so that I know if my Wi-Fi goes out or if something happens on the way, I don't miss that opportunity. I definitely have something in there, and then I'll also comment on the public comment section as well. So there's really a lot of ways that people can stay involved.
I'm a techno guru, by the way. I'm a techno guru.
So far with the podcast, I think you've got me beat.
No, not even close. So you can go to ndow.org, and it will take you into the website for the Nevada Department of Wildlife Commissioners, and you can actually watch the commission meetings there. The reason I think this is a front burner issue for houndsmen all over is because if this effort is successful in Nevada, then it will be tried in your state. So take 5 minutes, go to the Nevada Sporting Dog Alliance Facebook page or website, look at the letter, even if you just have to copy and paste or forward that in an email and say, I support the Nevada Sporting Dog Alliance on this, and just send your letter as an attachment or a paste. That's awesome. You know, right now we can't afford to give up any more ground or have any houndsman in any state lose the opportunity to hunt with their hounds as a hound hunting community. So that's exactly why I wanted to have you on, Becky, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity to kind of get out on your platform and get some more publicity for us. I appreciate everybody sending in emails and states they do and don't hunt in, because just like you said, it's going to come to you eventually.
Yep.
You know, they may not be knocking on your door, but they're knocking on your neighborhood.
That's right. I mean, it doesn't cost a dime to follow the NSDA on Facebook or wherever. Are you guys on Instagram too, or just on Facebook?
Just on Facebook and then our website.
Okay, so it doesn't cost a dime to follow that. It's going to pop up in your feed, and then you can forward that out to your followers and get that word out there. And that's an easy way to get involved.
It is, and we really appreciate it. I mean, like you had said earlier in the podcast, you know, on the $25 and $500 memberships, we do a lot of the financial costs out of our own pocket. And I'm not saying that I'm patting us on the back or anything like that. A lot of people think, well, does $25 make a difference? $25 does make a difference when you're printing out 45 double-sided and full-colored flyers for, the bear hunt meeting, when you're talking about indoctrination. Yes, thank you. I had a blank for a minute there. When you're printing out stuff like that, or if you're sitting at a Cabela's Days and you're printing out business cards, it really does make a difference. And trying to get that money saved up, that when the time comes, like now where we're in the fight, we've got a little money to work with to try and get the education out there. You know, something I would also love to see, and we had talked about this off air a little bit, is how do we get these high school kids and middle school kids involved in any form of wildlife management, whether it's hunting, anything. You know, we have these programs like Trout in the Classroom for the elementary kids, where, you know, they're raising the eggs and doing all that, and they turn those fish out. How do we do that with hounds? Is it where you go into a veterinary science class and you bring in a child-friendly dog, and you set out, you know, GPS collars or telemetry collars, like a little treasure hunt? How do we involve the next generation besides, and I say just taking them hunting? I don't mean that in a down put of just, but, you know, not every kid has the opportunity to go hunting. How do we get them involved on a whole?
One thing that I think would be extremely helpful, and I'm gleaning this from my former career in law enforcement. One of the things that we were required to do was to teach hunters education. And every Fish and Wildlife agency has to teach hunters education. In all 50 states now, it's required if they want to get Pittman and Robertson money. They get paid for the number of participants. State agencies do, reimbursed through the federal government for the number of students that they certify in hunters education. The place that program is lacking is there is nowhere in the curriculum, because it's pretty much a set curriculum across the United States now. I am not going to remember the name of the publishing company that produces those materials, but if you look in the Hunter's Education Manual, there is no mention of hounds and hound hunting. If we could get the hunting community organized and the hound hunting community organized for a special segment, that would be a start. Where because every person, like before they purchase a hunting license across the United States now, is required to have a hunter's education class. So that could be a start to an introduction that people actually do this. They actually use trained hounds, and the investment that houndsmen make, it could be written in a way, and it needs to be a topic that's covered there first, and then we can build off of that.
Absolutely. Yep. I think you're absolutely right.
Yep. It's International Hunter Education Association is what is the organization that develops most of those written materials. It just came to me. So I think that would be a good start if we could get the hound hunting community together to make that push for that to be included in basic hunter's education. That'd be a good place to start. I
think that's a really good idea, and you and I might ought to talk off air a little more about that.
Yeah, we can. We sure can. I can hook you up with some people and agencies across the United States that are pretty key, and we can start working on that.
I think that would be good, and that might also work over into maybe dispelling some myths too about, does hunting with hounds or having hounds in the area, does that affect deer hunting? Does that, you could kind of really branch off. And I just started a whole other podcast episode, didn't I?
Oh my gosh, that's just, oh no. How did you do that?
I think it could really branch off into some good things. And I just want to say, I appreciate the guys and gals and everybody who's out there trying to make stuff happen and really trying to make a good positive influence. And it can be a pretty lonely road at times, but you just got to know you're fighting the good fight.
Becky, and you're fighting the good fight, and the houndsmen of Nevada are lucky to have you and your compadres out there that are putting your time in to fight that fight. And again, guys, gals, we're talking about $25 to support an organization that is representing something that you are so passionate about. And get involved. You've got to get involved and understand what these organizations are doing for you and what impact they're having so that you are able to go out and enjoy your hounds. Becky, thanks for coming on the podcast, giving us your time today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for allowing me to come on. I appreciate it just as much, and I appreciate everybody who's got our back in this petition as well, and has taken time out of their busy days to help support some people they don't know, and apply for a Nevada bear tag, and you'd have a pretty darn good hunt.
Yep. It'd be a good time. So if you don't have any other final thoughts, anything you want to throw in before we sign this off?
Well, I think we've pretty well solved the world's problems.
Yes, we have. That's our goal every week.
Chris Powell for president.
No. Yeah, that'd be a disaster. So, Becky, make sure you tell Cleave I said hi.
I will.
Give him a break when he's walking around the front of the truck.
Well, look, maybe the next one I'll dedicate to you.
You've got a video.
I will, for sure.
All right, Becky. Well, thanks again. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule, and we're going to follow up probably first part of March to remind people, even if it's just for a few minutes. Have you back on, have you and maybe get Jonathan Lesperance on here as well.
Absolutely.
And talk about where we're at and talk about this overwhelming support that you've gotten because we've aired this podcast for you. And until then, Becky, you follow your hounds and I'll follow mine.
Sounds